The morning sun cast golden rays across Westminster Abbey as London awakened to a day that would be remembered for generations. Prince William stood before the tall windows of his private quarters, watching the city come alive with anticipation. Today was not just any day. It was the coronation of his father, King Charles III, and the weight of history pressed gently on his shoulders. Catherine, the Princess of Wales, moved gracefully around their room, her every gesture reflecting years of royal training. She had learned to carry herself with the perfect balance of elegance and approachability that the public had come to love. Her children, Prince George, Princess Charlotte, and Prince Louis, were in the adjoining rooms with their nannies, being prepared for what would be their first major royal ceremony as direct heirs to the throne. William's mind wandered to his grandmother, Queen Elizabeth II, who had passed away just months before. He could almost feel her presence guiding him through this momentous day. She had always emphasized the importance of duty, service, and dignity in public appearances. Today, more than ever, those lessons would be put to the test as millions of eyes around the world would be watching their every move. The palace staff moved with quiet efficiency, ensuring every detail was perfect. Catherine's stylist had arrived, early to help with the final touches to her outfit, a carefully chosen ensemble that honored both tradition and modernity. The sapphire and diamond earrings she wore had belonged to the late Queen, a touching tribute that connected past and present in a single elegant gesture. As William adjusted his ceremonial uniform, he reflected on the journey that had brought him to this moment. From a shy young boy walking behind his mother's coffin to a confident future king, every experience had shaped him for days like this. The military medals on his chest represented years of service, while the Order of the Garter sash spoke to centuries of royal tradition. Catherine joined him at the window, and together they watched as crowds began to gather along the processional route. People had traveled from every corner of the Commonwealth and beyond, some camping overnight to secure the best viewing spots. The sight filled them both with a deep sense of responsibility and gratitude. Their children appeared in the doorway, looking both excited and slightly nervous. George, as the future heir, wore a miniature version of his father's uniform, while Charlotte and Louis were dressed in coordinating outfits that managed to be both formal and age-appropriate. Catherine knelt down to their level, speaking softly to them about the importance of the day while keeping her tone light and reassuring. The final preparations were meticulous. Royal protection officers conducted their last security sweeps while protocol officials reviewed the detailed timeline one more time. Every movement, every gesture, every moment had been choreographed to perfection, yet William and Catherine knew that the real magic would come from their natural grace and genuine connection with the people. As they prepared to leave for Westminster Abbey, William took Catherine's hand. In that simple gesture was years of partnership, love, and shared commitment to their roles. They had supported each other through scandals, celebrations, and everything in between. Today would be another chapter in their story of service to the crown and country. The motorcade waited outside, flags flying proudly in the morning breeze. Royal guards stood at attention, their red uniforms and bearskin hats creating a striking visual against the palace's stone facade. The sight never failed to stir something deep within William, a connection to generations of his family who had served the nation with honor and dedication. Catherine's final check in the mirror revealed a woman transformed by years of royal duty into someone who commanded respect while maintaining warmth. Her posture was perfect, her smile genuine, and her eyes bright with the knowledge that she was exactly where she was meant to be. The children were loaded into their designated vehicle, accompanied by their nannies and a carefully selected group of young relatives who would also participate in the ceremony. Charlotte waved enthusiastically at the gathered photographers, while George maintained the serious expression he had been practicing for weeks. As their car pulled away from the palace, William and Catherine could see the massive crowds lining the streets. Union Jacks waved from every available space, and the cheers were audible even through the bulletproof glass of their vehicle. Street performers entertained the waiting crowds, while vendors sold commemorative items that would become treasured, keepsakes of this historic day. The route to Westminster Abbey took them past some of London's most iconic landmarks. Big Ben chimed in the distance, while the Thames sparkled in the morning sunlight. Every balcony and window was filled with people hoping to catch a glimpse of the royal family, and television crews from around the world had positioned themselves. At strategic points along the way, Catherine waved gracefully to the crowds, her movements natural and warm despite the formal setting. She had mastered the royal wave, a gentle, controlled gesture that acknowledged everyone while maintaining the dignity expected of her position. William nodded and smiled, occasionally pointing out particularly creative signs or costumes in the crowd to his wife. The Abbey came into view, its Gothic spires reaching toward the cloudy London sky. The ancient building had witnessed countless coronations, royal weddings, and state funerals throughout its thousand-year history. Today, it would add another glorious chapter to its story as the stage for King Charles III's coronation. Security was unprecedented, with officers from multiple agencies working in coordination to ensure the safety of the thousands of dignitaries, heads of state, and members of the royal family who would be in attendance. Snipers were positioned on rooftops, while plainclothes officers mingled with the crowds, ever vigilant for any sign of trouble. As their vehicle approached the Abbey's entrance, William and Catherine could see the red carpet that would soon bear their footsteps. The moment was almost upon them, their chance to demonstrate the poise, grace, and dignity that would define the modern monarchy for generations to come. The weight of history and the hopes of a nation rested on their shoulders, but they were ready. The car door opened with a soft click, and William stepped out first, his polished boots touching the red carpet with practiced precision. The roar of the crowd was immediate and overwhelming, thousands of voices calling out greetings, congratulations, and expressions of love for the royal family. He turned back to offer his hand to Catherine, who emerged from the vehicle with the fluid grace that had become her signature. Catherine's dress caught the morning light beautifully, the fabric shimmering as she moved. Every detail had been carefully considered, from the length of her train to the positioning of her jewelry. The cameras captured every angle as she paused briefly to acknowledge the crowds before joining William for their walk toward the Abbey's ancient doors. Their children emerged from their separate vehicle, and the sight of the young royals brought fresh cheers from the assembled crowds. George walked with the serious demeanor he had been practicing, while Charlotte skipped slightly before remembering her training and adopting a more formal pace. Louis, the youngest, looked around with wide eyes at the spectacle surrounding him, occasionally waving enthusiastically at the photographers. The Abbey's bells began to toll, their deep, resonant tones adding to the grandeur of the moment. Each chime seemed to echo through the centuries, connecting this coronation to all those that had come before. William felt the weight of that history as he guided his family up the steps, their footsteps joining those of kings and queens, princes, and princesses who had walked this same path. Inside the Abbey, the atmosphere was electric with anticipation. 2,000 guests filled every available seat, representing countries and organizations from around the world. Heads of state sat alongside charity workers, celebrities next to military heroes, all united in their presence at this historic moment. The diversity of the congregation reflected the modern Commonwealth's reach and influence. Catherine's entrance drew admiring glances from guests who had been waiting for hours to witness this ceremony. Her composure was remarkable. She appeared completely at ease despite knowing that every gesture was being analyzed by commentators around the world. She acknowledged familiar faces with subtle nods while maintaining the perfect balance between friendliness and formality. The Archbishop of Canterbury stood ready at the altar, his ceremonial robes a testament to the religious significance of the occasion. Ancient texts had been consulted, traditions honored, and prayers prepared that would officially transform Prince Charles into King Charles III. The weight of this transformation was not lost on William, who knew that his own destiny was inextricably linked to this moment. William took his designated place in the front row, with Catherine beside him and their children arranged in order of age. The seating arrangement had been planned months in advance, taking into account protocol, relationships, and the symbolic importance of family unity. Every detail sent a message about the monarchy's values and priorities. The organ began to play, its majestic tones filling every corner of the ancient building. The music had been carefully selected to honor both tradition and the personal preferences of the new king. Composers from across the Commonwealth had contributed pieces that would be heard by billions of people around the world, making this one of the most widely shared musical experiences in human history. As the ceremony began, William's military training served him well. Years of standing at attention during formal occasions had prepared him for the physical demands of remaining perfectly still and composed for hours. Catherine, too, drew on her extensive preparation, sitting with the perfect posture that photographers would capture in images destined for history books. The children's behavior was exemplary, despite their young ages. Charlotte whispered occasionally to her mother, while George maintained an almost adult-like focus on the proceedings. Louis, true to his playful nature, found ways to entertain himself quietly while still respecting the solemnity of the occasion. Their parents' gentle guidance was nearly invisible but highly effective. The moment when Charles was officially crowned brought tears to many eyes in the congregation. William watched with deep emotion as his father accepted the responsibilities that would one day pass to him. The crown, the same one worn by his grandmother for over 60 years, settled onto Charles's head with a weight that was both literal and metaphorical. Catherine reached over to squeeze William's hand during the most emotional moments, their connection providing mutual support during this profound experience. Their marriage had been tested by public scrutiny, family drama, and the constant pressure of royal life, but moments like these reminded them of their shared commitment to something greater than themselves. The choir's voices soared through the abbey as Charles was presented to his people for the first time as their crowned king. The congregation rose as one, their voices joining in the traditional acclamation that had echoed through these walls for 1,000 years. William's voice was strong and clear as he proclaimed his allegiance to his father and sovereign. The procession that followed the coronation was a masterpiece of choreography. Royal family members, government officials, and foreign dignitaries moved in carefully planned sequences that honored both protocol and practicality. William and Catherine's position in the procession reflected their status as the future king and queen, walking behind the newly crowned monarchs with dignity befitting their roles. Outside the abbey, the crowds had grown even larger during the ceremony. Police estimated that over 1 million people lined the streets of London, with millions more watching from parks, pubs, and homes across the country. The atmosphere was festive yet reverent, celebrating not just a new king, but the continuity of institutions that had guided the nation through centuries of change. The state coaches waited to transport the royal family back to Buckingham Palace, their gold leaf gleaming in the afternoon sun. These vehicles, works of art in their own right, represented the pageantry and tradition that made British royal ceremonies unique in the modern world. William helped Catherine into their designated coach, ensuring her dress was properly arranged, before taking his own seat. As their coach began the journey back to the palace, the crowds pressed forward to get closer to their future king and queen. Children held up handmade signs, elderly veterans saluted with tears in their eyes, and people of all ages reached out their hands in hopes of making some small connection with the royal couple. Catherine's waves were perfectly timed and genuinely warm, acknowledging specific individuals in the crowd while maintaining the continuous movement expected during such processions. Her ability to make each person feel personally acknowledged, even from a distance, was one of her greatest skills as a working royal. The journey back to the palace was a celebration in itself, with the crowd singing, cheering, and sharing in a moment of national unity that transcended political and social divisions. For William and Catherine, it was a reminder of the responsibility they carried and the trust placed in them by millions of people around the world. The Golden State Coach rolled through the gates of Buckingham Palace, its wheels crunching softly on the gravel courtyard. William stepped down first, then turned to assist Catherine, their movements synchronized after years of public appearances together. The palace staff stood at attention, their faces showing the pride they felt in serving the royal family during such a momentous occasion. Behind the palace walls, the atmosphere was different from the public celebration outside. Here, there was a sense of quiet satisfaction mixed with exhaustion. The months of planning had culminated in what was being called the most successful coronation in modern history. Every detail had been executed flawlessly, from the timing of the processions to the behavior of the youngest royals. Catherine immediately went to check on the children, who had handled their first major royal ceremony with remarkable composure. George was still wearing his miniature uniform with obvious pride, while Charlotte was eager to tell her mother about all the interesting people she had spotted in the congregation. Louis had fallen asleep in his nanny's arms during the coach ride back, overwhelmed by the day's excitement. William found himself in the palace's blue drawing room with his father, now King Charles III, who was still wearing the heavy coronation crown. The weight of the moment was reflected in both their faces. The realization that the monarchy had officially passed from one generation to the next, even though William's own time as king was still years away. The new king spoke quietly about the ceremony, sharing his thoughts on how perfectly everything had gone. He expressed particular pride in how William and Catherine had conducted themselves, noting that their natural grace and genuine warmth had been evident to everyone watching. Their children, too, had exceeded all expectations with their behavior and composure. Meanwhile, Catherine was in conversation with Queen Camilla, who had also been crowned during the ceremony. The two women had developed a strong relationship. Over the years, built on mutual respect and their shared understanding of the unique pressures that come with royal life. Camilla offered advice about handling the intensity of such public occasions while maintaining authenticity. The palace's communication team was already analyzing the global response to the coronation. Early reports suggested that the ceremony had been watched by over 2 billion people worldwide, making it one of the most viewed events in television history. Social media was filled with positive comments about William and Catherine's elegance and their children's adorable behavior. Photography from the day was being carefully reviewed by palace officials before its release to news organizations around the world. Every image would be scrutinized by royal watchers, fashion experts, and cultural commentators. The pictures of William and Catherine during the ceremony showed a couple completely comfortable in their roles, radiating the confidence and dignity expected of future monarchs. As the afternoon progressed, family members began arriving at the palace for a private celebration dinner. This intimate gathering was a stark contrast to the public pageantry of the morning, allowing the royal family to relax and reflect on the day's significance in a more personal setting. William changed from his ceremonial uniform into more comfortable formal wear, while Catherine selected an elegant evening dress. The dinner conversation was lively, with family members sharing their observations about the ceremony and the public reaction. Princess Anne praised William and Catherine's handling of the children, noting how their parenting style balanced royal protocol with genuine warmth. Prince Edward commented on the international guests' positive reactions to the couple's natural charm and accessibility. During the meal, King Charles raised a toast to his son and daughter-in-law, acknowledging their crucial role in the day's success, and their importance to the future of the monarchy. He spoke about how their modern approach to royal duties had helped connect the institution with younger generations while maintaining respect for tradition. Catherine's parents, Michael and Carol Middleton, were also in attendance, their pride evident as they watched their daughter navigate her royal responsibilities with such skill. Their journey from running a party supply company to being grandparents to future kings and queens was a modern fairy tale that continued to captivate the public imagination. The children were allowed to stay up later than usual, given the special nature of the day. They sat with their cousins, sharing stories about the ceremony and comparing notes about the famous people they had met. George was particularly excited about meeting several world leaders who had complimented him on his mature behavior during the service. As evening fell, William and Catherine stepped onto one of the palace's balconies to wave to the crowds that had remained outside throughout the day. The sight of the future king and queen, still radiant despite the long day, brought fresh cheers from the thousands of people who had waited patiently for this moment. The balcony appearance was brief but significant, allowing the couple to acknowledge the public's continued support and enthusiasm. Catherine's wave was as graceful as ever, while William's genuine smile conveyed his appreciation for the warm reception they had received throughout the day. Back inside the palace, the couple finally had a few moments alone to process the day's events. They sat in their private sitting room, still somewhat amazed by the scale and success of the coronation. The weight of their future responsibilities felt more real after witnessing their father's official transformation into king. Catherine kicked off her formal shoes and curled up beside William on the sofa, their public personas giving way to the private couple who had supported each other through every challenge their royal life had presented. They talked quietly about the ceremony, the public reaction, and their hopes for the future of the monarchy. William expressed his gratitude for Catherine's unwavering support and her natural ability to connect with people from all walks of life. Her presence beside him made the prospect of future kingship feel less daunting and more like a shared adventure they would undertake together. The palace staff began the massive task of cleaning up after the day's events, but their work was made lighter by the knowledge that they had contributed to a truly historic occasion. The coronation had demonstrated the monarchy's continued relevance and the public's enduring affection for the royal family, particularly William and Catherine. Late-night news broadcasts around the world featured extensive coverage of the couple's performance during the coronation. Fashion experts analyzed Catherine's outfit choices, while body language specialists praised the couple's natural chemistry and obvious mutual support. Political commentators noted how their presence had helped modernize the ancient ceremony. The day drew to a close, William and Catherine checked on their sleeping children one final time. The sight of George, Charlotte, and Louis peacefully resting after their first major royal ceremony filled their parents with pride and hope for the future. These children would grow up understanding their responsibilities while maintaining the warmth and authenticity that had become the hallmark of their parents' approach to royal duties. The coronation had been a triumph, not just for King Charles III, but for the entire royal family. William and Catherine's graceful participation had reinforced their position as the monarchy's future, demonstrating that they possessed both the gravitas required for their roles and the human touch that would keep the institution relevant for generations to come. The morning after the coronation brought a different kind of energy to Buckingham Palace. William woke early, as was his habit, and found himself reflecting on how the previous day had changed everything. His father was now officially king, which meant his own path to the throne had become one step shorter. The weight of this realization settled on him as he prepared for what would be a day of recovery and reflection. Catherine was already awake, sitting by the window with a cup of tea, reading through some of the early newspaper coverage of the coronation. The headlines were overwhelmingly positive, with particular praise for their family's conduct during the ceremony. She smiled as she read comments about how natural and approachable they had appeared, while still maintaining the dignity expected of their positions. The children were still sleeping, exhausted from the previous day's excitement and the late night that had followed. Their behavior during the coronation had been exemplary, but William and Catherine knew that maintaining such composure had required considerable effort from such young children. They deserved to sleep in and recover from their first major royal ceremony. Breakfast was a quiet affair, served in their private dining room rather than in any of the palace's more formal spaces. The contrast with the grandeur of the previous day was intentional. Both William and Catherine valued these moments of normalcy that helped ground them and their children in reality, beyond the pomp and ceremony of royal life. Palace staff moved through the building with quiet efficiency, cleaning up the remnants of the coronation celebrations and returning the various rooms to their normal configurations. The transformation was remarkable. Within hours, the palace would look as though the historic ceremony had never taken place, ready to resume its regular function as both home and headquarters of the monarchy. William's private secretary arrived with a briefing on the international reaction to the coronation. Messages of congratulation had poured in from world leaders, many specifically mentioning how impressed they had been with William and Catherine's presence during the ceremony. Several diplomatic contacts had requested future meetings, clearly seeing the couple as important figures in international relations. The social media response was particularly encouraging. Younger demographics, who had sometimes seemed disconnected from the monarchy, had responded positively to the couple's authentic warmth and their children's natural behavior. Memes celebrating the family's relatability were circulating widely, helping to bridge the gap between royal tradition and modern culture. Catherine spent time reviewing photographs from the ceremony with the palace's communications team. Each image would need approval before being released to news organizations, and she was particularly careful about pictures involving the children. Her protective instincts as a mother had to be balanced with the public's legitimate interest in the royal family's activities. The couple's stylist team arrived to discuss the fashion impact of Catherine's coronation outfit. Early reports suggested that her choices had been well received by fashion critics and the general public alike. Several elements of her look were already being copied by fashion manufacturers, demonstrating her continued influence on global style trends. William took some time to call his grandmother's former private secretary, who had watched the coronation from retirement. The elderly gentleman had served Queen Elizabeth II for decades and offered valuable perspective on how the previous day's ceremony compared to past royal occasions. His praise for William and Catherine's performance carried special weight, given his extensive experience. The children finally emerged for a late breakfast, still processing the magnitude of what they had experienced. George peppered his parents with questions about the ceremony, while Charlotte was more interested in discussing the beautiful dresses she had seen. Louis was content to play with his toys, seemingly unaware of how his behavior had charmed millions of viewers worldwide. Catherine's mother called to share her pride in how beautifully her daughter had handled such a significant occasion. Carol Middleton had watched from the Abbey with tears in her eyes, seeing her daughter's transformation into a confident royal while maintaining the warmth and authenticity that had always defined her character. The afternoon brought a private visit from King Charles III, who wanted to thank his son and daughter-in-law personally for their crucial role in the coronation's success. He spoke movingly about how their presence had helped connect the ancient ceremony with contemporary audiences, making it relevant for a new generation of royal watchers. William and his father walked in the palace gardens, discussing the future of the monarchy and William's evolving role as heir to the throne. The coronation had marked a clear transition, with William now officially next in line and Catherine positioned as the future queen. Their conversation covered both practical matters and the emotional weight of their shared destiny. Meanwhile, Catherine met with representatives from several of her charitable organizations who wanted to discuss how the positive attention from The coronation could be leveraged to support their causes. Her increased profile following the ceremony created new opportunities to raise awareness for issues close to her heart, particularly those involving children and mental health. The palace's gift room was overflowing with presents sent by well-wishers from around the world, many specifically addressed to William and Catherine or their children. Each item would need to be cataloged and acknowledged, a process that could take weeks. The variety of gifts reflected the global reach of the royal family's influence and the personal connection people felt with them. Evening brought a smaller, more intimate family gathering in the palace's private quarters. Extended family members who had traveled from around the Commonwealth for the coronation shared their observations about the day and their hopes for the future of the monarchy. William and Catherine listened carefully to these perspectives, understanding that their future success would depend partly on maintaining family unity. The couple spent time reviewing video footage of the ceremony, analyzing their own performance with the critical eye of professionals who understood that every gesture was meaningful. They were generally pleased with how they had conducted themselves, though both noted areas where they could improve for future ceremonial occasions. Catherine's jewelry choices from the coronation were already being analyzed by royal historians, who appreciated how she had balanced pieces from the royal collection with items that had personal significance. Her decision to wear Queen Elizabeth II's earrings had been particularly well received as a touching tribute to William's beloved grandmother. As they prepared for bed, William and Catherine discussed the thank-you notes they would need to write to the various people who had contributed to the coronation's success. From the Archbishop of Canterbury to the youngest page boy, hundreds of individuals had played crucial roles in creating such a memorable occasion. The day's newspapers had arrived with extensive coverage of the coronation, including detailed analysis of every aspect of William and Catherine's participation. Fashion magazines were already featuring their looks on covers, while political commentators discussed what their graceful performance meant for the monarchy's future. International news outlets were also paying attention, with many noting how the couple had successfully modernized the ancient ceremony without losing its essential dignity. Their ability to appear both regal and approachable was being cited as exactly what the monarchy needed to remain relevant in the 21st century. Before finally retiring, William and Catherine took one last look at their sleeping children, marveling at how well they had handled their first major royal ceremony. The sight filled them with hope for the future, knowing that George, Charlotte, and Louis were growing up with a natural understanding of their responsibilities while maintaining the warmth and authenticity that would serve them well as future royals. The coronation was over, but its impact on William and Catherine's lives was just beginning. They had proven themselves capable of handling the monarchy's most significant ceremonies with grace and dignity, while maintaining the human touch that connected them with people around the world. 3 weeks after the coronation, William and Catherine were beginning to see the lasting impact of their graceful performance during the historic ceremony. Invitations poured in from organizations around the world, all eager to associate themselves with the couple who had captured global attention with their perfect balance of royal dignity and genuine warmth. The palace's engagement diary was filling rapidly with requests for appearances. Catherine's private secretary worked overtime to evaluate which invitations aligned with their charitable priorities and which would provide the greatest benefit to the causes they supported. Every appearance had to be carefully considered, as their increased profile meant even greater scrutiny of their choices. William found himself in high demand for speaking engagements, particularly those focused on mental health awareness and environmental conservation. His natural eloquence, combined with the enhanced credibility that came from his coronation performance, made him an even more powerful advocate for the issues he cared about most deeply. The children had returned to their normal school routines, though their teachers reported that George, Charlotte, and Louis were still processing their experience at the coronation. Charlotte had written a school essay about the ceremony that impressed her teachers with its detailed observations and genuine enthusiasm for royal tradition. Catherine was working with her team to plan a major initiative that would capitalize on the positive attention from the coronation. She envisioned a campaign focused on early childhood development that could reach families across the Commonwealth, using her enhanced platform to make a real difference in children's lives. The fashion industry continued to buzz about Catherine's coronation outfit, with several elements already appearing in high street collections. Her influence on global fashion had reached new heights, and she was conscious of using this power responsibly by choosing to wear pieces from British designers and sustainable fashion brands. William's military colleagues had reached out to congratulate him on his composure during the ceremony, noting how his bearing had reflected credit not just on the royal family but on the armed forces he represented. His years of military service had clearly prepared him for the discipline required during such formal occasions. The couple's charitable patronages were reporting increased interest and donations following the coronation. The exposure from their participation in the ceremony had translated into tangible benefits for the organizations they supported, demonstrating the real-world impact of their royal platform. International diplomatic channels were also responding positively to the couple's enhanced profile. Several Commonwealth countries had extended invitations for state visits, recognizing William and Catherine as increasingly important figures in maintaining the relationships that bound the Commonwealth together. Their natural warmth and cultural sensitivity made them ideal ambassadors for British interests abroad. The palace's correspondence department was struggling to keep up with the volume of letters addressed to William and Catherine following the coronation. Messages arrived daily from people around the world, expressing admiration for their conduct and sharing personal stories about what the royal family meant to them. Catherine spent considerable time reviewing these letters, understanding that they represented real connections with people who looked to the royal family for inspiration and stability. She insisted on personally reading as many as possible, finding genuine meaning in the stories people shared about their lives and challenges. William was particularly moved by letters from military families and veterans who appreciated seeing their future king maintaining strong ties to the armed forces. His decision to wear his military decorations during the coronation had resonated deeply with service personnel and their families around the world. The couple's children were adjusting well to their slightly elevated public profile following the coronation. Palace staff noted that George was taking his role as future heir more seriously, while still maintaining the playful nature that made him so appealing to the public. Charlotte and Louis seemed largely unaffected by the attention, continuing their normal childhood activities with minimal disruption. Educational institutions were also reaching out, hoping to engage William and Catherine in initiatives that would benefit students across the United Kingdom. Their obvious intelligence and genuine interest in learning made them attractive partners for universities and schools looking to raise their profiles while supporting meaningful causes. The arts community had taken particular notice of Catherine's support for cultural institutions, and several major museums and galleries were proposing collaborations that would highlight British creativity while supporting emerging artists. Her background in art history made her a credible advocate for cultural causes. William's environmental work was gaining new momentum following the coronation, with conservation organizations reporting increased membership and donations. His passionate advocacy for environmental protection, combined with his enhanced platform, was translating into real progress on issues like wildlife conservation and climate change awareness. The couple's staff was working to develop new protocols for managing their increased workload while maintaining the quality and authenticity that had always characterized their public engagements. Every appearance needed to feel genuine and meaningful, not just ceremonial obligations performed out of duty. Catherine's team was particularly focused on ensuring that her increased profile didn't come at the expense of her family life. She remained committed to being present for her children's important moments while fulfilling her growing list of royal responsibilities. The balance was challenging but essential to maintaining the authentic family image that the public valued. Media coverage of the couple had reached new levels of sophistication, with royal correspondents noting their evolving roles within the monarchy. Their performance at the coronation had clearly established them as central figures in the institution's future, capable of carrying forward traditions while adapting to contemporary expectations. The international press was particularly interested in how William and Catherine were modernizing royal engagement with the public. Their use of social media, their choice of causes to support, and their parenting style were all being studied as indicators of how the monarchy might evolve under their eventual leadership. Palace officials were already planning for the couple's next major public appearance, understanding that every engagement would now be measured against the standard they had set during the coronation. The pressure was significant, but William and Catherine seemed to thrive under the heightened expectations. Their relationship with the press had also evolved following the coronation. Journalists who had covered the ceremony were impressed by the couple's professionalism and accessibility, leading to more positive coverage that focused on their work rather than manufactured controversies. As the month progressed, it became clear that the coronation had marked a turning point in William and Catherine's public roles. They were no longer just popular royals working in support of the king. They had emerged as central figures whose every action had national and international significance. The couple spent time each evening discussing the day's engagements and planning for the future, understanding that their enhanced platform brought both opportunities and responsibilities. Their partnership, both personal and professional, had never been stronger, built on years of shared experience and mutual support. Their staff marveled at how naturally they had adapted to their expanded roles, noting that the grace and composure they had displayed during the coronation seemed to have become their default mode of operation. They carried themselves with increased confidence while maintaining the warmth that had always been their greatest asset. The transformation was subtle but significant. William and Catherine had evolved from popular working royals into figures of genuine gravitas and influence, ready to take on the responsibilities that would define the next era of the British monarchy. 6 months had passed since the historic coronation, and the lasting impact on William and Catherine's lives was undeniable. They had settled into their enhanced roles with remarkable grace, transforming from popular working royals into the undisputed faces of the monarchy's future. Their performance during the coronation had become the gold standard by which all their subsequent appearances were measured. The couple's first major international tour following the coronation took them to Canada, where crowds exceeded all expectations. City after city welcomed them with unprecedented enthusiasm, drawn not just by their royal status, but by the authentic connection they had demonstrated during the coronation ceremony. Their ability to engage with people from all walks of life had reached new levels of sophistication. Catherine's work with early childhood development had gained international recognition, with governments and organizations around the world seeking her guidance on policy initiatives. Her research and advocacy had evolved into a comprehensive program that was being implemented across multiple Commonwealth countries, demonstrating how royal influence could create meaningful change. William's environmental campaigns had received a significant boost from his enhanced profile following the coronation. Major corporations were seeking partnerships with his initiatives, and his speeches on climate change were being quoted by world leaders. The gravitas he had displayed during the ceremony had translated into increased credibility as an environmental advocate. The children had grown more comfortable with their public roles, though William and Catherine remained vigilant about protecting their privacy and ensuring normal childhood experiences. George was showing increasing maturity in his understanding of his future responsibilities, while Charlotte and Louis continued to charm the public with their natural spontaneity during family appearances. Palace staff noted how the couple's working relationship had evolved since the coronation. They operated as a seamless team, with each complementing the other's strengths during public engagements. Their ability to divide responsibilities while maintaining unity of purpose had become a model for effective royal partnership. The fashion industry continued to monitor Catherine's choices closely, with her influence extending far beyond traditional royal circles. Her decision to increasingly feature sustainable fashion and emerging designers had helped shift industry conversations toward more responsible practices. Every outfit choice was analyzed not just for style, but for its social and environmental message. William's military connections had deepened following the coronation, with his obvious comfort in ceremonial uniform translating into increased respect among service personnel. Veterans organizations reported record levels of engagement following his appearances, demonstrating the power of authentic military representation within the royal family. The couple's charitable patronages had experienced unprecedented growth in both funding and volunteer participation. Their enhanced profile meant that every cause they supported received significant media attention, translating into real-world benefits for the communities they served. Their careful selection of patronages reflected their commitment to making meaningful differences rather than simply fulfilling ceremonial roles. International diplomatic relations had also benefited from their increased stature. Foreign governments specifically requested meetings with William and Catherine during state visits, recognizing their growing influence within the British establishment. Their natural diplomacy and cultural sensitivity made them valuable assets in maintaining international relationships. The transformation in public perception was perhaps most evident in opinion polls, which showed dramatic increases in support for the monarchy among younger demographics. The couple's authentic approach to royal duties had successfully bridged generational gaps that had previously challenged the institution's relevance. Catherine's parents had adapted well to their daughter's elevated status, maintaining their supportive role while respecting the increased security and protocol requirements that came with her enhanced position. Their presence at family events continued to provide stability and normalcy for the grandchildren. The palace's communication strategy had evolved to match the couple's increased importance, with their messages reaching larger audiences and carrying greater weight in public discourse. Every statement was carefully crafted to reflect their values while supporting broader governmental and institutional objectives. Media training had intensified for both William and Catherine, though their natural abilities meant that additional coaching focused more on refinement than fundamental skills development. Their comfort with various media formats had improved dramatically, making them more effective communicators across different platforms. The couple's private moments had become even more precious as their public demands increased. They jealously guarded family time, understanding that maintaining their authentic connection with each other and their children was essential to their continued effectiveness as public figures. Their relationship with King Charles III had deepened as he relied increasingly on their support for major initiatives. The coronation had demonstrated their ability to share the spotlight gracefully while maintaining their own distinct identities within the royal family structure. The long-term impact of their coronation performance was becoming clear in the institutional changes occurring within the monarchy. Their approach to public engagement was being adopted as the new standard, with other family members seeking to emulate their balance of formality and accessibility. Educational institutions had embraced opportunities to work with the couple, recognizing their genuine commitment to learning and development. University partnerships and school visits had increased significantly, with both William and Catherine bringing intellectual curiosity to their educational engagements. The arts community had responded enthusiastically to Catherine's continued patronage, with attendance at cultural events increasing whenever her involvement was announced. Her background in art history lent credibility to her cultural advocacy, while her genuine appreciation for creativity encouraged artistic expression across various disciplines. As the anniversary of the coronation approached, William and Catherine reflected on how profoundly the experience had changed their lives and roles. They had risen to meet the heightened expectations placed upon them, demonstrating that their grace and poise during that historic ceremony had been authentic expressions of their character rather than temporary performances. Their transformation, from popular royals to essential figures in the monarchy's future, was complete. The coronation had provided the platform for them to demonstrate their capabilities, and they had seized the opportunity to establish themselves as the steady, compassionate, and effective leaders the institution needed for the challenges ahead. The legacy of their coronation performance would extend far beyond that single day, having established them as the modern face of an ancient institution. Their ability to honor tradition while embracing progress had set the tone for their future reign, promising a monarchy that would remain relevant and beloved for generations to come. Looking ahead, William and Catherine understood that their coronation appearance had been just the beginning of their journey as senior royals. The poise and dignity they had displayed that day had become their trademark, ensuring that when their time came to lead, they would do so with the confidence and grace that the British people had come to expect and admire.